Boa noite, pessoal. Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Paula Martins, and I'm an undergraduate student at Stanford University. I'm also one of the founding members of Brazil at Silicon Valley, and currently the Vice President of Content for the conference. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the third week of BSD Digital, a series of digital panels about technology and innovation focused on the Brazilian ecosystem. Let's start by introducing our speakers for today. Marcelo Claure is the Chief Executive Officer of SoftBank International Group, Chief Operational Officer of the SoftBank Group, which invests in the world's most innovative companies that leverage AI and technology to redefine industry and improve people's quality of life. Marcelo also serves as the Executive Chairman of WeWork, the world's largest co-working and space-as-a-service company, and he previously served as President and CEO of Sprint, where he's widely recognized for delivering the best financial results in Sprint's 120-year history and for architecting the historic merger with T-Mobile US. Marcelo was the founder of Brightstar and built it into the world's largest global wireless distribution company and the largest Hispanic-owned business in the US. He was appointed to Ernst Young's Entrepreneur of the Year Hall of Fame and is a big soccer fan, running both Club Bolívar and Miami Beckham United. So in last year's edition, when Marcelo was with us, he shared that we were living a special moment in Latin America and Brazil, and that SoftBank was excited to create something unique in Latin America. At this point, SoftBank had just launched the Latin America Fund, which is the largest venture-backed fund dedicated to the Latin American region, investing $500 billion in technology growth opportunities all throughout the region. So today, we will be continuing this conversation, and Marcelo will share with us the lessons he's learned from the fund over the past year. He will also share his views on leadership, the future of Latin America, and his plans to turn around WeWork. Today, joining him, we have Ana Paula Assis, General Manager for IBM Latin America, and she's recognized in the market as a thought leader in topics like AI and data responsibility. Ana has had over 20 years of experience in international markets, was recognized by Valor Econômico as Executiva de Valor in TI and Telecom, and by Forbes as one of the 20 most powerful women in Brazil. It is a pleasure to have both of these exceptional leaders joining us today. But before we start, we would just like to thank our sponsors and partners, because Brazil at Silicon Valley is only possible because of them. I would especially like to thank our host for today, SoftBank. Today's panel will have 45 minutes of discussion and 15 minutes of Q&A. Please send us your questions during the presentation so we can pass them on to Marcelo and Ana Paula. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Marcelo Claure and Ana Paula Assis. Ana Paula, please take it from here.
Thank you so much, Ana Clara, and hello, everybody, all the attendees from the Brazil Silicon Valley Digital Edition, for obvious reasons. It's a big pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon and to be with you, Marcelo. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Great, and missing the opportunity to do this live like we did last year, but we do the best we can from my home in Miami.
That's right. That's right.
Where are you?
I am in São Paulo.
Okay.
So surviving the moment, but everything very well, healthy and safe. So Marcelo, I'd like to start by talking a little bit about SoftBank on a more global perspective. You guys just recently announced your full year earnings for last year, and I was reading your release, and the last charts actually caught my attention because you made an interesting comparison between the Great Recession in the 30s, right, and the recovery came from new industries that were created. And now you guys believe that this recovery is going to come from new technologies that are going to be used and developed after the crisis. And you say that information revolution should bring happiness to everyone, which I also believe. Probably it's very hard to believe that right now, but it's a very inspiring message. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So first is, we can talk about SoftBank. I think I'm lucky to be part of what I consider to be the most exciting company in the world. I mean, we have investments, operating companies pretty much covering the entire globe and covering all technologies, all industries. This year earnings were tough. I mean, we reported a very large loss, probably the largest loss in our company's history. And that was mainly attributed to marking down our Vision Fund investments, who last year, they were the big winners. But I think probably the highlight of this whole thing is, even though the Vision Fund is in the news more than any other fund in the world, we're still positive. So when you look at even after the write-downs that we did of some of our investment, the fund is still positive. And we believe that after we pass the crisis, and as the world, I would say, goes back, it's never going to go back to normal, but as the world gets back to people going out and getting out of quarantine, we think our investments are exceptional, and we're going to have some companies that are going to do extremely, extremely well. We have no doubt of that. Then when you look at SoftBank as a platform, what is impressive at SoftBank is the combination of assets that we have, right? I mean, not a lot of people know that, we are the largest shareholder of Alibaba, which is thriving in the middle of this crisis. It also owns Alipay, which is basically, it manages more transactions daily than all the Chinese banks put together. We have the most innovative telco in Japan, who's doing incredibly well. We are the second largest shareholder of what I believe is going to be the best carrier in the world, the new T-Mobile, which is a combination with Sprint and T-Mobile. And in our semiconductor play, ARM is a dominant player in the architecture of design of pretty much every chipset that goes into every mobile device around the world. In addition, we have the amazing investments in the Vision Fund, companies that are basically changing the way we live our lives. And a lot of them are thriving in the midst of this crisis. And then, as importantly, we are the ones who launched, the largest technology fund in Latin America. Last year, we announced that we were launching our $5 billion technology fund for Latin America. And I'm so proud to report that after 1 year, we have invested $1.8 billion in venture companies in Latin America. And out of that 1.8 billion, 1.4 billion went into Brazil. And our companies in Brazil are doing exceptionally, exceptionally well. And I could not take more pride that, when I look at the figures, I think there was about, $4.5 billion invested in the entire venture capital that SoftBank took close to 40-50%. And not only that we invested a lot, but also very importantly to say that we have we have forced others to get in the game and invest. So I think, even though we are going through the traditional crisis that faced Latin America, I could not be happier that we're fully committed to Latin America.
And Marcelo, given the current environment and the challenges that the crisis, and now I'm talking about the health crisis, right, is bringing not only to Latin America but to the world, is the strategy that initially drove us to make this huge commitment still solid, or what changes do you think are coming in the horizon in order to adjust to this new reality?
So at a macro level, our $5 billion commitment holds. We do plan, we had a plan to invest $5 billion in 5 years. We got off to a head start. We invested close to 2 in 1 year. So we got another 4 years to invest another $3 billion. So our commitment hasn't changed. We're still looking for the same. We're looking for exceptional companies with exceptional entrepreneurs, where the size of the market is really large, and where we're fixing big problems. And right in the middle of the crisis, we made an investment into a company called Pet Love. That again, we see as a company, as people not going to the shops, the company is thriving in order to meet their pet needs, and we didn't stop. And we have a few investments coming in the next few months. So that hasn't changed. Now, what I love is what is happening with our companies in our investments in Brazil. If you look at Banco Inter is doing, yesterday announced the results. The growth is exceptional. When you look at Rappi, our food delivery company, it's growing. I believe they grow something. It was quite a large growth. When you look at Madeira or e-commerce investment, they grew 200%. When you look at Quinto Andar, that is solving the needs of customers to rent. When you look at Logi, at Vitex, all this, I can continue going through our companies. All of them are going through, an amazing growth phase. And I think, what changes is, I think entrepreneurs have realized that in time like this, you have to even run your business more efficiently. But some of our business are thriving because these are new industries, right? When you look at e-commerce, it's basically growing very fast. When you look at food delivery, it's growing incredibly fast. When you look at digital banking, because people can go to, Itaú's big strength was I got more branches than anybody else. Well, guess what? Nobody's going to branches. So people like to do digital banking. And when you look at VTEX and others, they power the e-commerce or VTEX or all this. I mean, and there's more and more SMBs going to e-commerce. So I look at our commitment hasn't changed. Where we will continue to invest in great companies. And, I think this is where the brave stay, right? When people look at the Brazil macro update, people get scared that the real is an all-time high and that there might be some GDP contraction and all that. I mean, we look at, companies are growing at 100%, even with the devaluation of the real, still, our companies are growing much bigger than that. And when I look at the macro Brazil, with over 340 billion of foreign reserves, Brazil has one of the largest US dollar reserves in the world. So things will get back to normal as it relates to the economy. Where I'm really, really worried is coronavirus and what we've experienced the last couple of days in terms of placing Brazil as a third country with the number of deaths or the number of cases and growing real fast. And the current political struggle, whether, who controls whether we maintain a quarantine or not, that's an area that's concerning. Because, I mean, you don't want to see Brazil, replicate what happened in Italy or what happened in Spain or what happened in the early stage of China, So I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, no, that's certainly an area of concern. But on the other hand, as you said, this actually accelerates, right, digital. And you guys are really placed in the opportunities that are going to be created as part of this complete change in behavior and in the way that people are going to engage with companies and relate to each other, right? So talking about your other hat now, WeWork, big turnaround happening there. You guys also posted a very solid first quarter, which was surprising to me, given that there is a lot of saying that we don't know if offices are going to exist much longer or how they are going to be revisited after this, with everybody working from home. So what's your perspective on WeWork and what's the future of the office?
So WeWork, I wrote something the other day that WeWork reminds me of Sprint, right? I mean, Sprint, when I became CEO of Sprint, absolutely nobody, it was the same headlines that Sprint was going to go out of business, that Sprint was going to go bankrupt, that it was impossible. And we put together a very clear 5-year plan in terms of what is it that we were going to achieve. We motivated the team. We found a very special niche in the market. And then I remember when I think our holdings were worth $8 billion and, 2 years from now, our holdings on the new T-Mobile should, I believe, surpass $45 billion. So we created a lot of value. And I look at WeWork the same. I look at WeWork as a company that needed some adjustments. It's a company that was losing billions of dollars, a company that was growing too fast. But it's a company that fundamentally, the business model works, and it works great. I mean, when you're able to provide speed and flexibility to people who want to rent an office, I don't care if you're Google, if you're Microsoft, you're IBM, everybody needs the speed and flexibility that WeWork will give you by having a platform of over close to 1,000 buildings all over the world. And that's what has allowed WeWork to have an exponential growth. And we put together a clear plan. We said that we were going to surpass $1 billion a quarter at the end of the year. We accelerated that in the middle of the crisis. We did our first $1 billion quarter. We reduced our cash flow burn by 60%. We have a $3.9 billion of liquidity, and our memberships increased by 50%. So the company continues to grow. Now we're global, 38 countries, 150 cities, 828 buildings, 1 million desks. So the company is ready. And what we did in the middle of the crisis was we started redesigning our product to understand what do companies want. And one of the things that we learned is that big companies, they don't want to sign long-term commitments. They don't want to sign a 20-year lease or a 15-year lease because they have no idea how many employees they're going to have. They have no idea how many are going to work from home, how many are going to work in their office. So the demand for our products from the enterprise is just enormous in terms of large companies wanting to sign flexible lease commitments with us, which we love it. I mean, in the middle of the crisis, our big enterprise has grown from 43 to 45% of our revenue. Also, what companies have asked us is, we want to make sure that you take into consideration social distancing. So therefore, we have redesigned our spaces so you can no longer just go to a space and congregate. Everybody has an assigned, I won't say an assigned sitting, but we put together depends on the country, between 6, 10, or 12 feet difference among people. We make sure that we're sanitizing our buildings in many cases 3 to 4 times a day. We make sure that we are taking the appropriate precautions. And what we find is, we thought that a lot of our companies were going to cancel their leases. I mean, that had not happened. People respect their office. People are eager to go back to their office, and people might use their offices different. But what I do know is people are going to go back to work. They might not go back to work the same way you went back to work, and that you had to go to IBM to your office. It was religious, that you could not work virtually and all that. I think it's going to be a combination between the virtual and physical world, but the physical world is not going anywhere as it relates to office. You still got to have meetings, you got to have interaction. And as we find a vaccine for coronavirus, or we find cure, I think things are going to get back to normal as it relates to that. But in the meantime, in the few cities in the US where the government has allowed for the economy to reopen again, we're seeing people going back to work, and they're going back to WeWork, maybe not at the same frequency, but less frequency, but they're still paying the rent, they're going to work. We made a commitment that we are going to be profitable next year on 2021. We have a plan, a very clear plan on how to execute it. And I think for the entire venture community, turning WeWork profitable is quite important, because I have never seen so many news written about venture and WeWork and what people call a failed investment. I think, to me, it's an incredible opportunity. People often talk about pre-WeWork and after WeWork, and the enjoyment and satisfaction that we will have once WeWork is a cash flow generator, a profitable business next year. So we're excited, we're committed, we have a great management team, and we continue to execute our plan.
Yeah, I actually saw your CEO commenting that people will need more space in this reality, right? Because of distancing and all the other maintenance aspects, right? That you need to add to your real estate management. That being able to delegate that to someone else to do is also a source of value. So certainly a revamping of the model, of the services that you offer are going to be part of this restructuring that is coming along, right?
Yeah.
Now let's switch to the beginning here. So Marcelo, you are a Bolivian entrepreneur that ended up building the biggest cell phone distributor in the world, who in the end got bought by SoftBank. Tell us a little bit how BrightStar started, and a little bit of your early years as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think BrightStar is the memories that I have of BrightStar. What I like to share about BrightStar is that there's no reason why a Latin entrepreneur cannot be number one in the world. Right? I mean, I think BrightStar is one of those few companies that, hey, they were started in Latin America, and we became the largest in Latin America and the largest in the US. And 10 years later, we were the number one company in the world in our industry. And that to me was very important, because we wanted to prove that Latin entrepreneurs have the exact same, sometimes we have fears that we cannot compete globally, and there's no reason. I mean, I think we're as good or better than any other entrepreneur from any country in the world. So I'll leave that as BrightStar. Yes, it was a beautiful story that started from selling phones from the back of my car to eventually being present in 70 countries and $10 billion of sales and profitable and all that. But what I like to take to entrepreneurs is nothing has changed, right? BrightStar was in a place where first question we had to ask ourselves is the market large enough? And we were in the middle of the revolution of mobile phones. So therefore the industry was enormous. Was BrightStar solving a real need? Absolutely. Supply chain was broken. And the reason why BrightStar became so successful is because we became the most advanced supply chain management company in the world in mobile services. And while the traditional way would have been, if you were a small retailer in Brazil, you would put an order to a manufacturer, it will take 60 to 90 days for you to get a phone. We fixed supply chain, so companies didn't even have to put in an order based on yesterday's sales. We will go ahead and deliver what their needs were for all the retail points of sale. And we're touching millions of points of sales a day. So we were doing the exact same thing, right? We're solving a big problem. We played in a big industry. We were using technology to do it. And when you do that, and you do it in a responsible way, you're able to raise money, you're able to have hyper growth, and you're able to become a cash flow generator. So I would say that was a happy story for me, that it was a cycle from an idea. It started from a garage, then moved to a car. The car was my office, to eventually finding venture capital, private equity to give us the money that we needed to grow, and then replicating our business model. And when I look at some of the companies that we have invested today, it's exactly the same. They're solving, in Brazil, the fintech, the whole banking, there is a need for digital banking, for example. The market is enormous, right?
Right.
Entrepreneurs are growing and they have profitability as line of sight. Then, there's no reason why there shouldn't be other bright stars that become, leaders in their countries. And then later on, they become leaders in their continent. I love when I see companies expand throughout Latin America. I love when I see some companies coming into the US, makes me excited. And then once you've conquered America, there's no reason why you cannot replicate that throughout the world like Brightstar did. So I utilize some of my Brightstar learnings to basically, replicate and talk to the incredible entrepreneurs that we have invested throughout Latin America.
Yeah, and you bring a good point, Marcelo, which is what are the aspects that you look in companies when you decide to go for an investment? What are the things that you're looking for to decide whether this is a good bet or not?
Yeah, first is the size of the market, right? I mean, where they're playing, is their size, right? We're not interested in solving little problems. So is there a big size of a market for what you're doing? Secondly, are you really solving a need, a company need, or you're solving a customer need? Is there something that needs to be solved? For example, Uber's was solving a problem that was, imagine transportation. If you ever wanted to get a car to rent, you had to pay for 4 hours, or not, you had to take those taxis that you could never predict when they were around, they were dirty and all that. So they're solving a need. And then thirdly, and as important as the other two, is the quality of the entrepreneur. Because, you make all these plans. Yes, we ask you, we're going to invest, give us your 3, 5, 10-year projections. But there's one thing that I know that's certain, is what you have planned is not going to happen exactly as you had planned. So you're looking for those entrepreneurs that have this incredible ability to be able to switch, to be able to turn left because the current was coming this way, have an incredible problem-solving ability, to have that resilience, to have that passion, for them to be hard workers. Because I always say, in order for you to be successful, you got to have a plan, you got to work hard, and you got to be passionate for what you do. And when you find those qualities in an entrepreneur, in a big industry, in a problem that they're going to go solve, which they're going to disrupt, I think you're always going to do good, unless something dramatically happens. And I look at, the quality of the entrepreneurs that we have invested is just exceptional. It reminds me, in many cases, they are significantly better than me at my early age, and I was able to take a company global. So I think some of the Brazilian, Mexican, and Colombian and Argentina entrepreneurs that were invested, I'm sure they're going to be, they're going to be great, and we're going to have some global leaders in the future.
Yeah, there's no shortage of talent in Latin America. That's for sure. Sometimes we have more talent than the opportunity to really make this talent thrive, right?
And we saw that, right? When we went to Latin America, and we saw that there were more talent, there were great companies, but there was such a scarcity of capital.
Right.
Because, venture capital came in and out, private equity came in and out. They got scared when the currency devaluated, or they got scared when we had the crisis, when Lula got there for a given point in time, or when, the different crises that we have experienced, and they come in and out. What makes SoftBank so different is, we have a multi-10-year plan. I mean, we have a 300-year plan, we have a 30-year plan, and we're in this for the long run. This is why, the company has over, $200 billion of net asset value. Is we're in this for the long run, and we can weather the crises as long as the opportunity is still there. And I think probably the best example of this in the world is WeWork. When the easiest thing for us was to run away from WeWork, we decided to double down, double our investment, double our commitment, because really the thesis hadn't changed. People need office space. Today, if you want to go rent a building, it's incredibly painful, tedious, take a long time. You're locked to long-term leases. And I say the same thing about Brazil, right? The opportunity hasn't changed. The size of the country hasn't changed. Yes, we might hit a hiccup, a little contraction on GDP for the next year. But guess what? It'll be the year after, it'll be back, and it'll be back stronger. So, we're investors for the long run, and we're there to support the companies we have invested.
But I'm sure it wasn't easy to sell the idea to Massa in the first place, was it?
So Latin America, it wasn't. And it wasn't because, not because he had anything about Latin America, but because it seems so remote, so foreign. Because when I talk about Brazil, I mean, he told me, look, I remember reading about the crisis, the 2008 global financial crisis, when the real lost 35%, the commodity bear market, where the currency lost 44%, during Lula's election in 2002, where it lost 38%. So I guess he was confused. But then when you show him, right, that for Uber, Rio and Sao Paulo were among the two most important cities, that Didi left China, the first expansion was to come into Brazil. When you see the size of the market, the under-penetration of technology, how easy it's going to be, there's nothing easy, but how much potential there is to disrupt your traditional banking industry, your transportation industry, your bus industry, and so on and so on. And then, there are some clear examples of some incredible Latin American companies. I mean, then we started looking at Mercado Libre, right? Which they've done is just exceptional, right?
Exceptional.
When you look at what Magazine Luiza has done, with that, I'm a big admirer of the digital transformation that Magalu has done. It's just fascinating. I mean, keeping size of the market. I mean, I think Magalu do a better digital transformation than Walmart. And I think, the under-penetration of financial services, under-penetration of credit, under-penetration of credit cards. I mean, I can go on and on in terms of what the opportunity is. So, and that's why we're committed, and that's why we're going to continue to do it. The Latin American Fund is my baby. Among the responsibilities that I have is the one that allows me to go back to Brazil, to Argentina, to Mexico, and, and remember where this all started. So we're super excited, and we're going to continue to support great companies and great entrepreneurs.
Great. And as part of your relationship with Massa, he asked you to take over Sprint, be the CEO there, and lead a major turnaround. And you also architected one of the largest mergers in the telco history with T-Mobile. Tell us a little bit about that. How was switching gears from entrepreneurship to a corporate animal? So
Sprint was the perfect corporate animal. I mean, it was founded in 1899. It was highly bureaucratic. There were tens of thousands of employees. A company didn't believe in itself. And I think we took an entrepreneurial spirit to a company, set a very, very clear set of goals, put together a very clear compensation package where people were only going to make money if the stock hit $8, and the stock was $2 when we launched that plan. So people thought, or $2.20, and people thought that was going to be impossible. But more importantly, is we figure out what needed to happen, right? We needed to build a great product, which we started building. We needed to change marketing. We did the most famous marketing campaign. It was the first time ever that a telco wins a campaign of the year against every brand when we launch or Can You Hear Me Now, Verizon person that we stole from Verizon. That was a coup that was incredible. We redefined distribution. We started growing our distribution again. And we did probably the largest cost takeout ever done. I mean, we took out close to $10 billion of cost because there was just a lot of cost to be taken out. So we made a company that was on the verge of bankruptcy to a company that was sustainable. And I would say a company that was mergeable. So then we figure out that when you combine the two Mavericks, number 3 and number 4 in the industry with T-Mobile, with the most amazing spectrum holdings, and a country, the US, that desperately needs 5G because China is going full 5G ahead, we put together this merger that absolutely everybody doubted they was going to get approved because we had tried 3 or 4 times before. And we put together a plan. We understood what it takes to get a merger approved. We understood that the US needs 5G. We understood that we were going to make a commitment that no merger has ever done that says we're going to increase the number of jobs. No, we're not going to decrease the number of jobs. We're going to increase our investment by $40 billion, and we're going to go build the world's best 5G network. And AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Charter, these are big people to fight. They tried everything to make this merger not pass, and we actually got the Department of Justice, the FCC, to approve it. And when we were ready to open a bottle of champagne and celebrate, we got sued by the attorney generals to stop the merger, which is something that has only happened once in 1940. And then we went to trial and a lawsuit, and we won. And today we put together what I have no doubt will become the world's leading telecommunications company. This was a large merger. I mean, the enterprise value, the combined enterprise value of the two companies, I think was close to, I can't remember, but it was hundred and something $billion, which made it one of the largest mergers ever. And since the moment we announced our merger, the stock didn't move on COVID. The stock is close to $100 yesterday, which is incredible. It's a $120 billion equity value company. Yeah. So I think it's going to be great, and the fact that I have a chance to be in the board, and I'm learning a lot. The fact that we own 24% of that company is just exceptional. So it was. I always say that the achievement was fixing spring, merging spring, and then closing the transaction in the middle of the biggest financial crisis. Yeah. So it was. I'm very happy. I would definitely say that, building Brightler from scratch was my number one accomplishment, but doing the whole spring cycle was our number two accomplishment.
Yeah, and also being able to conclude the merger, right? Because it was a very, very slow process with many regulators' approvals and certainly a lot of stamina to drive this process to the end. And that's the thing, Marcelo. You seem to be unstoppable. And you do so many things and all of them so well. Where do you get energy from?
Where do I get energy from? I just, I'm so lucky to be part of SoftBank, and I'm so lucky to have been placed in the position that I sit in SoftBank with the responsibilities that Masa has given me. I mean, I am in charge of all the operating companies of the group, right? So all the companies that's pretty much, people often think the Vision Fund. The Vision Fund is 10% of our assets, of the money we have invested. And working with Masa on managing the other 90%, managing the largest, I think by the end of this year, we're going to become the largest renewable energy company in the world. And we started that business from scratch. And next year, we're going to be doing 8 gigs of solar and wind. We started that from scratch. So that has been fascinating. Having responsibility in my portfolio for a company like ARM, that basically sits at the forefront of technology of anything that gets communicated.
And with all edge computing happening now, it's certainly going just to explode.
Absolutely. We just announced record sales of our chips. Sitting within, having responsibility of our largest telco investment, which is fascinating. Having Masa, showing up to Masa and say, Masa, I want you to trust me with $5 billion to go invest in Latin America. I said, when they give you this, and then being CEO of the group and managing all legal and all the back office and HR and all that, when somebody has given you so much responsibility and so much trust, I mean, it's like I have that responsibility that actually makes me work harder and with a bigger desire to continue to perform and do well. Because at the end, when somebody trusts you so much and they give you so much responsibility, I think you have an obligation to basically give it all you have, and that's all you can do. So we work hard, we travel a lot, we innovate, we do different transactions, but we never lose sight of where this all started, and this is why I'm so excited to. I had lost touch with Latin America when I went to Sprint. I moved to Kansas City. I didn't move from there. That was such a hard turnaround that I lost touch with what was going on in Latin America. And I'll tell you, I have a lot of big jobs within the group, but by far my most exciting job is working with Paulo, Andre, Shu, which are my top three investment partners, and my entire Latin American team. I meet with them every week, and we look at new companies and the level of excitement and the debate that we have. I'm just, that's the best part of my job is definitely Latin America.
Yeah, I think we have one view in common, which is that artificial intelligence is going to impact every industry, every part of society. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and what's your perspective on how to do it in a way that is responsible, right? In a way that is for the good of the world and not the other way around.
Yeah. So let's start with the good of the world. I believe that when you can utilize data, you're going to have an ability to forecast every major disaster that's going to come. Every hurricane, every earthquake, every natural disaster, every pandemic, because the availability of data is what allows you. And I think the biggest example, the biggest learning that we have in the world, it is the way the Chinese are managing the pandemic today, because they're utilizing data, they're utilizing location in order for them to basically, I won't say stop, you don't stop the propagation of the pandemic of COVID-19, but what you do is you contain it. And yes, there's debate whether the data is right or wrong. Directionally, China has done an incredible job of being able to contain the pandemic in some of the most populated cities in the world. Look at Beijing, Shanghai, and all that. And that is by utilizing artificial intelligence, by using predictive models, and by utilizing location and data in order to do that. So from that end, I find it in the future, we're going to be able to use data to basically predict what's going to come in the future. So that to me is first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Now, artificial intelligence, we are, and that's why when you see our earnings yesterday, we say, hey, we're huge believers in information revolution. We have studied every revolution that's come to place, the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and we believe that the magnitude of this revolution, the AI revolution, is significantly bigger than anything else, because the power of computing today basically allows you to make a decision or have data that will allow you to forecast what's going to happen, and and the level of decision is going to be massively better today. And it's coming, and you cannot stop it. And it's pretty much going to happen in every industry. With the power of a machine is going to be much bigger than the power of the human brain. Now, logic and common sense and others will still prevail, and that's why humans were always going to have a job, but we're going to be able to make our job with better informed decision through the utilization of the aggregation of data in order for us to make better decisions. So when I look at the good of the world, having access to data will stop every major disaster. We're going to be able to cure diseases faster. We're going to be able to provide better healthcare, personalized healthcare, not based on what a doctor thinks should be the right prescription, but based on utilizing genomics to understand, what is the one medicine you need to cure you, et cetera, et cetera. So pretty much every industry will be disrupted. And I think, that's what we're investing in. When you look at the Vision Fund, we might have been a little ahead of our time, but we have no doubt that at the end, companies that we have invested that utilize AI, we often joke that the companies that use AI is like driving a Ferrari, and companies that don't use AI is like riding a horse. And at the end, I'm sure the Ferrari will beat the horse by a lot. And that's what we're huge, enormous believers. And we saw what happened with the broadband revolution, with Alibaba, and with the propagation of the internet. The same thing is going to happen with AI, with our AI revolution.
Yeah, and it takes some patience, right, to see these things actually taking traction. But I think what this crisis brought is really that it pretty much accelerated all this adoption, and now you're seeing really the benefits of these technologies. I'm going to give the opportunity to the audience to ask questions. So we have a Gabriela coming from the BTG channel. What needs to be done for WeWork to survive? I think you talked a little bit about that, but anything else that you would like to add?
So just to be clear, WeWork had no problem surviving. WeWork will thrive. WeWork, when you look at most of our competitors, they cannot weather the crisis. When you look at our results, we've massively accelerated the stopping of the losses. And by 2021, WeWork will be profitable. WeWork will start generating cash flow late 2021, early 2022. And the demand for our services post-coronavirus is even more appealing. Right. And the product value proposition is even better because it offers the flexibility and and basically the ability to find offices pretty much everywhere else in the world. So I have no doubt that WeWork will be a great turnaround, and that WeWork will be, what it was supposed to be when it was first thought of.
And now Mauricio asking what the sectors and companies that will suffer the most and which ones will have the biggest potential to grow during and post-COVID.
Yeah. So unfortunately, in crises like this, businesses will suffer, right? I mean, we've seen and unfortunately, the small and medium businesses that don't have the ability to withstand the crisis, and that there's going to be a new model, is going to be difficult. I look at the hospitality industry, will be very difficult. I look at traditional brick and mortar retail, will be very difficult. People that have experienced Amazon or Alibaba have very little desire to go to a shop and have the risk of being contaminated by the virus.
Right.
I think that sports, as we know it, is going to be very different. Will be very far from live sports. I think live concerts will be in trouble. I think pretty much, every business is going to be altered. Now, I think the best way to think of it is, and this is fortunate or unfortunate, right? In this case, the stronger will get stronger, and the weaker, they will collapse fastest than they would have taken to collapse. So when you look at all these big box retail that are filing bankruptcy pretty much every week, we all knew, we had no doubt that eventually they were never going to survive.
There was a huge debt, right?
We knew that Amazon and e-commerce will eventually eliminate your traditional brick and mortar big box retail. And what this crisis has done, it has massively accelerated it. So, I mean, you're seeing bankruptcy filings pretty much every single week now of these big box retailers. But we knew that was going to happen. And what this crisis has done, it has massively accelerated that. Now, what is happening? What have we learned in certain companies, right? We've seen the companies that have the ability to provide you seamless virtual meetings like the one we're having today. Those companies are thriving. I think we've all learned that we can run our companies, or we can run our division, or we can run many things without having to go to the office all the time. Yeah. So I think, the acceleration of the virtual meetings, or utilization of Zoom to do meetings, that's never going to stop. At least I've learned how to conduct it. That doesn't mean that we stop going to the office, but we might go to the office less, or we might not have those enormous corporate headquarters. We might have many WeWork where companies give you pass for you to go have meetings and book conference rooms. So I look at that as companies that are going to continually grow. E-commerce is here to stay and massively accelerated. I was looking at a chart last week that the e-commerce penetration, and I don't know how it was defined, the amount of times that you buy something through e-commerce in the US, grown from April 19% of Americans to 27%. So think about it. It took us 30 years to go to 19, and it took us 1 month to go from 19 to 27%. So anything that's e-commerce is here to stay. And the reason why is because a lot of people that before didn't shop Amazon or didn't shop many other e-commerce players, today you're seeing it. Yeah. And you love the convenience, and you realize that, God, it's so easy to order. It's one click here, you do Apple Pay, and you click 3 things, and it's a lot easier to shop than having to go to a shop, wait in line, half the time they don't have your size, and it'd be a more risky environment. So I look at e-commerce, absolutely no doubt. Distribution, food distribution. I mean, when I look at the numbers of our food delivery companies, they're going through the roof, right? I mean, for once we've learned that, hey, you can have high quality food delivered to your house, and really you don't want to cook. I mean, I think people that started ordering, food distribution, people that use the different food distribution companies, Uber Eats or Rappi, there's no reason why you would want to go to a restaurant today. Again, because you have higher risk to be contagious, because there's no reason to go there. So I think a food delivery is definitely going to be one that's going to stay. And I will also say something that's important is when people say, what forced the largest digitalization of all of our businesses, it wasn't that you had a good CTO or CIO. It's been coronavirus. Right. Every business in the world has been forced to become a digital business. So we just accelerated the digitalization of every business. Every small and medium business has an app today where you can order food, you can buy the product, and you have companies like all these that help that happen. So the digitalization of our business has basically allowed, and the companies that learn how to digitalize fast, has basically are going to be the winners. And even if you go to the B2B world, the B2B world was traditionally, relationship business, a face-to-face. In the middle of this pandemic, the B2B business went full digital, and it finally went.
Don't even tell me about it.
So I think, a lot of industries will disappear. There's going to be a lot of new businesses, or the e-commerce businesses are going to be great. The digital companies, Facebook, all-time high in the middle of a pandemic. Google, advertising is up. When you look at those traditional, the digital integrators or the digital companies, those are going to continue to grow, and we have no doubt that this is not going to stop them. Legacy business, trouble. If you learn how to use a digital bank, and you're able to do every single transaction that you did in your Itaú branch or your Bradesco branch, there's no reason. You learn. This time you learn because of necessity. You have to go do it. Yeah. There's no reason why anybody would want to go through the pain to enter a bank branch. So I think a lot of accelerations of things that were going to happen anyway are just going to get accelerated because of the virus.
Yeah, and I think that many sectors were protected by regulations that ended up being softened by the crisis, right? So it broke a lot of paradigms as part of it, and that's the reason of the acceleration. Now let's switch to a topic
I'll tell you two more that are good, right?
Yeah.
Online education. Teachers went digital. They were forced to go digital.
Absolutely.
And then some of our online education companies are just growing 300%, 400%, 500%. Incredible. And people have learned, you can learn online. So you don't necessarily need to go to school the same way you used to go before. Universities, most of them won't open next year. And however, even universities, even Harvard, MIT are in the middle of instituting their biggest transformation ever, in which they got to go fully digital, which is fascinating. Gaming is another one that, hey, you're at home, you started gaming a lot more. And then online medical care. And that's a perfect example where, God, it was so hard to get the telehealth approved because of Congress all over Latin America. Well, guess what? Telehealth is here because of coronavirus. And then once you're able to talk to a doctor, to a qualified doctor, the same way you and I are talking to each other, there's absolutely no reason why in the world you would want to go see that doctor, where if you have technology, through technology, you're going to be able to check somebody's temperature, check their vital signs and all that, without the necessity of ever having to see that doctor. You're going to be able to input that data, and the level of diagnostics are going to be significantly better. So a lot of exciting times ahead.
I agree. And on education in particular, we have a very interesting example. We have a platform called PTech, Pathways to Technology, that used to be delivered in presence in schools. In Latin America, we managed to touch a couple of hundred kids, and we decided to switch it to totally online with Open PTech. And now we have 6,000 kids using the content in the region. So you can see how much this thing scales, right, with technology. Now let's switch to a passion of yours, which is soccer. Yeah. You won 2 teams with David Beckham. So first, tell us how you met David Beckham.
Well, I met him at a friend's house.
Friend? Who friend? What friend?
Her friend was Jennifer Lopez, and he had finished playing, and he had an incredible. He's a very, very clever businessman, and he had negotiated an agreement that he could buy a franchise at a reduced price, and Miami was the only city that didn't have a team. So he came to Miami. He fell in love with Miami, and now after many years of hard work, we have a stadium. We were ready to play on a Saturday, our first home opener. And then on Thursday, we got notification that we had to stop it because of coronavirus. So we are so eager to finally bring football to Miami. As we say, if you ever drive around Miami, they'll say your real football is here. So we named the team Club Internacional de Football, FUTBOL Miami. So we're so excited about that. And, even in soccer, I was talking to our scouts or recruiting teams. Long gone are the days where, say, hey, the player used to send you the video, you used to look at the video, you like him, you don't like him. Today, every player decision that you're making, you're utilizing AI, you're utilizing data to make the decision whether that player is going to be your right player or not. I also own the team in Bolivia, which is Bolivar, which is my passion, my favorite team. We haven't put AI there. We're still a little behind, but we will get there. And you know, soccer is a passion. Soccer is going to be, the crisis has affected every live sports. Soon we're going to be playing, but we're going to be playing with empty stadiums. And you know, it's going to be a different, you know, players are going to have to, like all of us, like you and I have had to adapt to work from home. Players are going to have to learn, you know, how to work, you know, with an empty stadium. And it's not easy, because if you think about it, most games are won by the home team, because they have, you know, in Maracanã, you have the 80,000 people screaming, and then that way you're able to beat your opponent. Think about it. We're going to take away that edge of the fans, and we're going to provide, this is what coronavirus is doing. So pretty much everything is going to be disrupted, and TV is going to be the big winner, because live sports are going to be more valuable as
Right.
there's going to be no competition. I don't see football going back with the spectators the normal way. We might open it up with social distancing and all that, but those packed stadiums are not going to be part of our lives in the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So we're approaching the end here. So can we start the lightning round? What's the one quality that you have as an entrepreneur that you believed helped you grow?
Just, you know, big dreams. Everything's
You have
possible.
this fascinating story, right, of making Bolivia playing in the World Cup, right?
Yeah, that was big dreams. You know, what we do every day is big dreams, and doing the merger was a big dream. Turning around Sprint was a big dream. WeWork is an enormous dream. So big dreams with a lot of passion, hard work, and clear plans. Usually, those things put together, they tend to work.
What's your soccer team in Brazil?
Flamengo.
And
No doubt.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Anytime.
Yeah, it was nice to see Flamengo play Bolivar. You know, Bolivar beat Flamengo in La Paz, and Bolivar tied Flamengo in the Maracanã. So we got Flamengo out of the Taça Libertadores. It was real nice. But after that, I love Flamengo. I love Flamengo because also one of our companies, Bosser, you know, has the big Flamengo here. So, and we love Bosser. And I think once people start traveling again, you know, they're going to disrupt the entire industry of transportation that is so poorly managed and so corrupt in Brazil.
And what's the one word that you use to describe Brazil?
Opportunity. Oh, it's the land of opportunity.
That's so true. And with that, Marcelo, I'm just gonna give you 1 minute to final comments, any final messages that you would like to deliver to the team here.
No, first is thank you to the team at Stanford and Brazil Silicon Valley. You know, it's a big dream, it's a big initiative. You're doing an incredible job of positioning Brazil to the world, and you know, I applaud you for that, and this is why I'm a big supporter. And thank you for inviting me last year. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to so many different people today. So keep on the hard work. To everybody, stay healthy, you know, stay safe. I mean, the more we learn about this is extremely serious, and I'm truly saddened what I'm seeing in Brazil in terms of the amount of death and all that. And make sure you push your politicians to take this thing serious, because there's too much to lose by not doing it. So thank you again. Thank you for being so kind, as for all your great questions, and I hope to meet you in person.
The same here. And so to Marcelo, it was a big pleasure. It was really, really inspiring for all of us to hear you talking and your perspective on Brazil. It certainly fills us with hope to continue and to continue driving. I am going to say thank you to everybody that participated with us this afternoon for your questions. And now I'll turn over to Ana Clara to wrap us up. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Marcelo and Ana, for this great conversation. I'm sure our audience is leaving today inspired to become better leaders and excited for the future of innovation in Latin America. Before we leave, on behalf of the BSB team, I would like to apologize for our technical problems on YouTube. We are all still adapting to this new normal, but today's full conversation between Marcelo and Ana Paula will be available on our YouTube channel in both English and Portuguese. I would also like to remind everyone that hasn't followed us on our social medias yet that you should. This way you can learn about our next events. And next week, we will be hosting Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, one of the world's leading experts on artificial intelligence, and Roberto Marinho Neto, board member of Grupo Globo. They're going to be talking about what we can learn from China, how China has grown as an ecosystem, and many more interesting things. So thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you next week.